Find Your Artistic Voice, by Lisa Congdon. This summary is brought to you by Hook My Book. Find Your Artistic Voice is a book that helps artists identify and nurture their own visual identity. The book features down-to-earth and encouraging advice from Lisa Congdon herself, as well as interviews with established artists, illustrators, and creative. It also answers the question, how do I develop a unique artistic style? Artistic voice. An artist's voice is their own perspective on art. It includes their own style, skill, the subject matter they work with, and how often they use these techniques. It reflects the artist's unique background, experiences, and values. Ultimately, it is what makes an artist's work unique and what makes it different from others. But when you are in the process of developing your artistic voice, it's helpful to step back and understand what comprises a voice so you can think about what areas you might want to hone further or develop more deeply. In truth, most artists' voices, while hard to tease apart, have several distinct components. For some artists, certain components are their identifying markers more than other components, but all the components make up one's artistic voice. Skill refers to the level of ability an artist has to create realistic artwork. As an artist becomes more skilled, their ability to communicate their ideas and emotions through visual imagery will become easier. There is no one definition of skill, and as new genres of art are created, the definition of skill will change accordingly. Thanks to great minds like Georgia O'Keeffe, Claude Monet, Pablo Picasso, Henri Matisse, Sol LeWitt, Romare Bearden, and Vincent van Gogh, by the mid-20th century the tradition of a singular definition for artistic skill was broken. If you are self-taught, you can be just as skilled at making art as someone who has had years and years of schooling. Your skill is simply in what you do, and not necessarily in traditional techniques. The way to develop skill is through practice. If you practice something, you will become better at it. This is similar to learning a foreign language. When you first start learning a foreign language, it is difficult and you may not be able to find the words you need. But as you practice, you will become more fluent and the language will become easier. This is also true for other art-making techniques. As you practice, you will become better and better at your craft, and your fluency will support the development of your voice. Your voice becomes stronger as you develop your skills. To do that, you want to get out into the world, watch movies, listen to music and podcasts, read books, see art, look for what speaks to you. Surround yourself with voices that challenge you or that you don't understand, not just other artists who resonate for you or who you want to emulate. Remember, it is important for artists to explore their own creativity and to be surrounded by voices that challenge them. Art is the ability to communicate ideas through different mediums. There are traditional mediums like paint, paper, and clay, but there are also non-traditional mediums like discarded clothing, chewing gum, or human hair. The form mediums give to an artist's ideas influences their style and the mood of their work. Artistic expression is created through the use of different media, styles, and techniques. This allows artists to explore and experiment, while also maintaining a consistent style. The more consistent an artist's work is, the more likely it is that their voice will be recognized. The consistency in your work is the ultimate expression of your voice. When you find that your work begins to use consistent media and subject matters and has a consistent style over time, this is evidence that your voice is emerging. Does consistency mean you'll never experiment or try new things? Of course not. And you wouldn't want to stop experimenting either. Learning is a continuous process. The author discusses how an artist's voice changes over time. And that an artist's voice is not final, and that it evolves over time. The author discusses how an artist's aptitude and skill, ideas, style, and perspective are what make the artist's voice their own. And also points out that an artist's orbit around their sun, their aptitude and skill, is always moving, and they are not in a fixed place. Your voice is your superpower because it allows you to create something new under pressure. Your story matters because it is everything about you, what has happened to you, what interests you, what you are passionate for, what you find yourself wanting to read about. And what you find yourself thinking about as your mind wanders. It is also your struggles, your fears, your regrets, your hopes, your dreams, and your aspirations. Your story is your background, your identity, your culture, your ethnic or gender or sexual identity, the color of your skin, and how you've been treated by society, and the privilege or lack of that you've experienced in your lifetime because of all of those factors. Artists have to have a strong voice in order to sustain a professional career. If their voice is weak, their career may not last long. The stronger and more distinct your artistic voice, the more likely you will seize opportunities like gallery shows, grants, residencies, illustration gigs, licensing agreements, and sales of both original art and products. The artist goes through 4 phases: spark, ongoing desire to create, questioning, and creative flow. The artist has to go through these phases in order for their art to be good. When the artist is in creative flow, they are in a good mood and their art is good. Understanding where you are in the cycle is useful, because that understanding can help you anticipate where you might be headed next. It can also help you understand that any messiness you are experiencing is completely normal. It can help you to hang in there and persevere, even when you feel like you want to quit. Spark. A spark can be anything that inspires someone to want to become an artist. It could be anything, from watching a movie or reading a book to noticing street art. Some people grow up surrounded by art, theater, writing, or music in their families. Others don't discover creativity until much later in life. Your spark is simply a moment or a series of moments that inspired you to want to make art or to become an artist. Creativity is a process that involves taking risks and experimenting. Most productive artists are able to work through fears about not being ready or not having the right set of tools. It's possible that you occasionally lose the desire to create, or that you wax and wane through periods of desire and indifference. This is also a totally normal experience for creative people. Desire. Creative people have a strong desire to create, and this desire is essential to their success. The spark, or the moment of inspiration, is what drives this desire and helps artists persist through challenges and roadblocks. However, what drives the motivation and success of different artists is not as important as the desire itself. Making art as a regular practice is hard work, and beginning anything new can also feel vulnerable and even painful. Questioning. At some point, probably often, a person will find themselves questioning their work. This can be a difficult experience, as it can feel like your entire identity is at stake. However, if you allow these feelings to stay, they can be very helpful in revealing what you need to work on. Creative flow. Creative flow is a state in which a person is fully focused on their work and is able to produce good results quickly. It can be a difficult state to achieve, but once it is achieved, it is a very productive one. Mimicry. You can't be an artist without being influenced by other artists. Copy other artists to learn from their techniques, and then use those techniques in your own work. Be conscious of how you are transforming the influence into your own work, and be open to finding new inspirations. Showing up. The author talks about how she became a creative entrepreneur by speaking at a conference. At the conference, the organizer complimented her and said that what she admired most about her was that she showed up. This compliment inspired her to think more about what it means to show up. She begins to think about it in terms of her community and her work. She realizes that showing up includes putting in the work, even if it feels daunting at first. Practice. Finally, practice is important because it helps you to develop your voice as an artist. If you want to become a professional artist, practice is a key part of the process. End of the summary. Thanks for listening.